Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you join us today. It's a wonderful day and a very interesting conversation I'll be having with two special people who will be joining us in the studio shortly. So, what are we discussing today, and why why are we talking about all this? We know that at the end of the day, there is a digital transformation that is happening worldwide, and there are there are gaps, and there are talents that are required to fill these roles. And then we've considered some of the roles and some of the opportunities, and we want to discuss some of them with you. So if you're here, you're joining live from Facebook, from YouTube, or from LinkedIn, please feel free to drop your name and your location. Let's just know where you're reaching us from. And then as well, please, we'll be very, very happy for you to engage in the chat while we have this discussion, because at the end of the day, while our guests are going to be sharing their experiences, we also want to learn from every one of us that are out there and that actually have related with some of this subject matter before now. So without much ado, and in no particular order, I will introduce our guests to us so that we meet them, know where they're coming from, and then be able to see how we engage them and ask the pertinent questions. It's just a 1 hour. Everything we're going to be doing is 1 hour maximum. So even if we don't answer all the questions today, be rest assured that we will have another series. We'll have a continuation of this conversation because there is a lot to unpack. Some of our conversations backstage reveal that there's so much more to what we want to do. So before I go on as well, before I introduce the guests, just one last thing. I want to let you know about what the project Innkeeper is about. Innkeeper is driven by the demand for technical and technology talents by the corporate and by startups, especially starting from Lagos, Nigeria, and West Africa at large. So what Innkeeper is attempting to do is to ensure that the identified gaps are properly filled by qualified and certified talents from the pool of talents that come on board the Innkeeper.work platform. Those who actually qualify and are certified are actually now matched with our partners who are corporates and our startups are in their need of qualified talents that can do the work, that can walk the talk. It's also very good to mention our affiliations with Cisco Networking Academy. That's as a company, the company is affiliated with Cisco Networking Academy and also affiliated with VMware IT Academy. We also have partnerships from an academy support provider, that's United Cisco, and other private technical partners, which I will bring up in the course of this event. So without much ado, first things first, I'm dropping Mr. Paul Chinda. All right. He is someone who has been around the technology space for a while. He's been with AT&T, he's been with Dell Technologies, he's been with Microsoft, he's been with VMware, but currently is a multi-cloud technical seller at IBM, and then also does something around National SLED, SLED, and Health and Life Sciences accounts. I think those are the accounts that he handles. I'll give him an opportunity to introduce himself as I bring him upstream. Also in the house is Ifeanyi Paul Alaike. Is a NetAccount success lead and a technical manager for our partner United Cisco. Is a DevOps engineer, Python programming engineer, a number of Cisco certifications from ITC, CCAI, ITQ, Internet of IOE, and is also a AWS solutions architect. So I am happy to bring them both on screen to you this morning. So good morning, Ifeanyi, and good morning, Paul.
Yeah, Damilola, good morning. It's a pleasure having me here. Thank you, everyone connected today, for your time, for everything. Want to say thank you once more for the opportunity. And it's a very interesting thing you are doing at 8Gear with Innkeeper. It's a very, very good thing out there. You know, what is happening globally now, the way technology is shaping our lives and shaping the way we live. And also
Sure,
because of where we find ourselves, lots of vacancies need to be filled,
sure.
lot of job demands, especially with emerging technologies. The capacity or the digital skills needed, the gap is so wide and it needs to
Mhm.
be filled. Thank you so much,
Beautiful.
Damilola.
All right, fantastic. Uh, Mr. Paul just dropped off the stream. I'm sure he'll be right back. Once he comes back, I'll bring him up screen and we can continue this conversation with him and introduce himself. So, just a little about yourself, Mr. Ifeanyi. I know that I did not do justice to the introduction. So, please help me out. Help me fill the gaps that I
Uh,
didn't fill properly.
okay,
Tell us
Damilola, a brief about
a little bit about your background. We really want to know where you're coming from. What was your first degree, for instance? How did you get to where you are? Just a short summary of your own story. Hello, hello, Paul.
Yes, I'm back.
Yes, you're back. All right. So I just
Yes.
introduced you, and so it will be good for you to help me fill the gaps where I may have missed about your background and how
Sure.
your journey has been. For instance, we'd really love to know, and I know a number of young people would love to know, what was your first degree, for instance, and then how did you get
Oh,
to where you are today? Just a short story about yourself. Let's meet you.
oh, absolutely. So my name is Paul Chinda. I work as a multi-cloud technical seller at IBM. Um, I cover about 15 states in the United States, mostly in the Southwest. So Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and a few states in the Midwest as well. I attended Indiana Institute of Technology. I have a degree in business and just finishing up my master's degree from Southeastern Oklahoma State University. Um, Prior to my role at IBM, I worked at Microsoft, VMware for a number of years, and for many years I worked at Dell. And so, for my adult career, this is basically all I've done is work in the technology sector, and I've seen it evolve from hardware to software to subscription model, and now to digital transformation with the cloud. Um, so let's see what else. I'm
Yeah,
from originally from River State in Nigeria. I was born in Edmond, Oklahoma, in the United States. Married with two children. My wife is an engineer at Microsoft.
wow. So
So
it's
that's
an
a little bit
engineering
about me.
family.
Yeah, yeah. I've got
Beautiful.
several certifications I may add in Google, um, Microsoft, AWS, Oracle, and a few others, and just continue to take certifications and kind of educate myself in the technology space as things continue to evolve.
Wow, that's so inspiring, Paul. Thank you so much. Let's take
Thank
let's
you.
take a similar introduction from Ifeanyi. Ifeanyi, please just help fill the gap so that we can get straight to the topic.
oh Damilola, sorry for the break in transmission.
No trouble.
Yeah, a brief about myself. I am from Abia State by origin. I schooled at Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, where I majored in animal health and production. I'm not from the
Mm,
engineering background. So I'm wondering, somebody out there listening at me and saying, can I really come into this space? Oh, I just studied accounting, I did business, but sure, if I can do it, why not? So after leaving school, I went straight to University of Calabar, where I worked with AfriHub. AfriHub also is a solution provider at the University of Calabar. So we had a program for the final year students where I was an instructor, which was where I started my IT career. So I majored in CompTIA, which is A plus, what I majored in. And after then, I left and I came over to Lagos and I joined United Cisco. and I've been with United Cisco, had a little stint with VLAN Tech. You look at my profile. Then also Cloud Hide, where I did my, where I'm doing my, currently doing my AWS also, and also the DevOps engineer role. But majorly I've been with United Cisco, where I've been the Nethercard success lead, and also I'm the IT technical manager. Thank you. Just a brief about that. We get to discuss
Yes.
more when we start.
All right, beautiful, beautiful. All right, so straight to the first question. I like the way. So for viewers, I have two polls on screen. The first Paul that spoke from the US, I'll call him Paul. And then because Mr. Paul Ifeanyi Alaike has multiple names, I can give him the Ifeanyi. So when I say Paul, please understand. So I like the way Ms. Paul actually started this conversation, talking about he has seen the transformation from hardware, and I'm going to try to recollect the way he put it, from hardware to software to subscription models, and now to digital transformation through the cloud. Am I correct?
That is correct.
All right. So, what type of companies and what type of organizations actually require digital transformation leveraging cloud, data, and IoT? What type of companies are we talking about?
Wow. So that's a loaded question, but I would want to say everybody could use it, right? Now, do we convince everyone to use it? No, but everybody could use it to some extent. So right now for IBM, I cover state and local government, education, health, and life sciences. In the education space, just because they've got a lot of smart people, there's a lot going on in the universities with research and so on, it's a little bit easier. Health and life sciences, because of the HIPAA laws and because of security, it's a little bit more of a technical, it's a journey type conversation, right? To figure out where they are in their transformation journey and to assure them that people's medical information and data will not be exposed and so on and so forth, right? And clearing through the misconceptions. State and local government in the United States is just really far behind technologically. And so they take much longer. Now we start seeing security breaches across the globe. So they're a little bit more hesitant. And then a lot of them have legacy systems that they have purchased that are working just fine. And so it's also difficult to convince them to start out of nowhere just using the cloud. So the whole transformation journey starts with hardware, which still exists to an extent, just because you've got Dell and HPE and all the other companies that IBM as well that are still making systems. And then you have subscription model, and then you have the software, which just says, hey, you buy this software license, you slap it in on your infrastructure, it's good for X amount of time, and it does X, Y, Z. And then you have subscription, which says pay as excuse me, pay as you go, which is as you use it, you pay for it, right? If you don't use it, you don't pay for it. And then you have digital transformation, which says, hey, everybody's got a data center. Everybody's data is in a data center somewhere. Why not outsource that to the hyperscalers and let them have your data secured, protected, offsite, and you simply pay a subscription model to run that data in your environment. So that's kind of been the journey, give or take, over the past 20 years, and that's kind of where we are now. But just depending on the vertical, whether you're talking about finance, healthcare, education, transportation, arts and media, entertainment, state and local government, that's what's going to dictate the level to which they are transforming their environment. Some verticals are harder than others.
Beautiful. So let me put this question to Ifeanyi based on what you just said. What's really the advantage that the cloud brings? I think Ifeanyi is also, you can help me, Mr. Paul. What's the advantage really? What's the selling point for people actually transforming their businesses leveraging cloud over the legacy systems that you mentioned? What's really the advantage? Why should any company want it, Mr. Paul?
Oh, why should any company? A number of different things, right? So the flexibility and the scalability is the biggest thing for me. Um, I'll give you an example of that. So during COVID, we were getting a lot of calls, and the first reason we were getting calls was simply because customers wanted to scale outside of their environment, right? But then you have all these challenges all over the world manufacturing, and they call the Dells and the HPEs and some of the other, Hitachi and some of the other um, OEM manufacturers. And one of the things that was being told to them was, oh, it's going to take you 90 days to get you a box, 120 days to get you a box, XYZ. So being able to scale on demand is difficult with hardware. Because the truth of the matter is that anything you do to scale, you have to have another box, right? The cloud takes that away. The cloud takes that issue away. You're able to scale on demand just simply because capacity is being controlled by the hyperscalers. The IBMs, the VMwares, the Microsofts, the Amazons, and so on. Because it's pay as you go, you have a sound understanding of how to actually pay for what you're using and not have to just simply pay for everything. If you buy a box, it's yours, right? And so whether you're using it or not, you're paying for it. But in the cloud, you're charged just simply for your usage. So you can decide to use app services, you can decide to use um, machine learning, you can decide to use storage, and you simply just pay for what you use. What you do not use, you do not pay for it. And then finally, one of the things that's starting to come up a whole lot right now is application modernization, right? So being able to modernize applications, adding information, putting them in containers, XYZ, is also creating a situation where an application itself, in its regular form, is now being expanded to do other things, whether it's fitting into a data set so that it can be used from an analytics perspective, whether it's being scaled up or down. We've got a lot of work that developers do, and basically when they're done, they can simply destroy that environment, after they've done some sort of proof of concept, and that environment's completely gone. So there are a number of different areas where we talk about advantages of the cloud and why we think, that it's the future, because we're already seeing it transform environments. Then you have the last thing that I talk a lot about is cost. So now, if you've got hardware, you're paying for a number of things: heating and cooling in the building, paying the light bill, paying for security, paying to move boxes around, paying a technician to sit on it. So there are a number of different things that you no longer have to do that the hyperscaler does for you, right? So basically, they've got your environment, and whatever hardware is being in that environment is being managed by them and not you. You can now simply focus on what's going on in your organization and simply growing your organization up or down, scaling, moving pieces in and out, and not worrying about the hardware aspect and its cost. So those are just some of the different things that we have conversations with our customers, and kind of help them understand and do analytics to see where they fit in the cloud journey and what's the best benefits they can get out of using the cloud.
Beautiful. I love that. Three things that I picked quickly is cost, flexibility, and scalability.
Sure.
You, would you like to add? And then also while you're adding, if there's any other advantages Paul hasn't spoken about, how about the issues of security? Is it actually worse with cloud than on regular hardware? And because I recall a story, and let me just share the story. I think it was Merck. Um, this company that had a virus that crashed the entire network, and then luckily and sadly at the same time, Lagos had a backup or something that was offline because of power issues. And that they had to come back to Lagos to they had to come back to Lagos to move the hardware back and use that to restore the system. So if you recall the story, so is there really a security concern when it comes to cloud? I want us to talk about this, then we talk about the opportunity in the next couple of minutes.
Okay, thank you, Damilola. Sorry, little break in transmission.
No trouble.
So, looking at the cloud technology now, like Paul has clearly stated, back then, the on-prem servers, you look at what we have in Nigeria then. You look at coming to Nigeria, coming to a bank, for instance, and you want to carry out a transaction. When that place is down, assuming you are doing from somewhere like Oma here and the bank headquarters is in Lagos, and you're doing a transaction, once there's issue of rain, a little bit of rain, the report you get is that network is down. Okay, why? Because the servers that are being used are hosted on-prem than now.
That's
So
on
looking at
premises.
good. So looking at now today, companies have scaled up, like Paul was saying. They've scaled to the cloud. And the advantages they have is that they don't need to pay for infrastructure, they don't need to pay for space, they don't need to pay for power. Everything is covered in the total package that they subscribe for. Also, one of the issues that people had then back in on-prem servers was the issue of security, just like what you're mentioning now. Then I could just enter into a network of a bank, and banks vary based on their technical depth. Some might not have the technical depth to secure their network. So I could just enter as a hacker and I can find my way there. But imagine being in a cloud solution. For instance, you're an AWS, IBM also is a part of the cloud technology, whereby you have good engineers, people that are, that are vast in the cloud technology in terms of security and everything. They deploy everything there, all the resources there, and you buy a space there, and your assets are hosted there. You can imagine what will happen there. It's very difficult or very hard for you to hear that an AWS server has been broken into. Yes, with all the things that they have there, is very, very difficult. And in fact, you sign an SLA. It's like 99.999% what they have. So they assure you that everything is going to be safe. So for me, and looking at the technical space, I would say that the issue of security actually is better off than before. Yes, people can argue that we've had some issues of cybersecurity, hacking and theft and other things. But I will tell you that the major players in the cloud technology hardly report any issue of cloud issues. You can agree with me with that. Compared to when you have your servers hosted on-prem, it can easily be accessed. So, and I remember when Cisco came up with the idea of Internet of Everything. Okay, we're talking about security. The security is embedded inside the technology, so you don't need to be afraid of it compared to why we have servers hosted on-prem. So I think security-wise, that is covered.
Okay. So from any one of both of you that could help us out here. So how does big data and IoT, and this is the last technical question before we begin to talk about opportunities. How does big data and IoT, how does it play around the cloud environment and digital transformation? Think of us as novice here and help us break it down. What's the intersection? How does it weave together?
So there are a number of different things there, right? Let me share something from a customer I'm working on right now. So this customer is in the healthcare space, and they have a number of different things that they want to do and they want to understand. One is they are a healthcare provider, but they also provide healthcare devices. So this is their case study. So they have a manufacturing plant that builds those devices, but they also have medical facilities, right, where people go in and out for treatment. So in the process of manufacturing, they can do counts of how many people work on a certain shift and how many boxes of their product are produced in and out. Then on the medical side, they have information about how many people are in and out of the clinic, how many doctor's appointments, how many times a year, why do people come to the hospital, why do people not come back? Is it cost? Is it customer service? Is it proximity to home? Now, in this whole cloud, in this whole bridge of what we're talking about, they collect data every day. So the biggest thing we do right now in this world in technology is collect data. How that data is used, that's a different story. So they're collecting data all day, every day in some capacity. So if a customer comes in, they say, oh, fill out this form. Customer fills that form, they scan it, put in the system, now they have that customer's data. Customer checks in for their treatment, checks out, that's data. The document that the doctor puts on a chart, that's data. Same thing with the manufacturing plant. A guy walks in, he works 4 hours, he produces 50 devices, that's data. Next guy comes in, only produces 30, that's data. Okay, on certain days of the week, they're more productive than others. Why? That's data. So when we talk about big data and its analytics, we're basically putting queries in to say, I want to know XYZ piece of information, and I want to put my data that I've collected intentionally and unintentionally in a position to spit out the information that I need. So, give an example of what we did with this customer. We wanted to we want to understand what their productivity looked like every day of the week and why. We wanted to understand if, from a device perspective, we wanted to understand how they're tracking these devices within that controlled environment. So before something goes on the conveyor belt, we also wanted to understand if they can use their mobile devices to track this information. Can their mobile devices become scanners? Can their mobile devices tabulate people's labor? Can people clock in and out? So all this is on one side of the fence. And then on the healthcare side, okay, a guy came in last year and he never came back. We know he's getting healthcare treatment somewhere because either he died or he had a critical illness and he's not back. So two things could have happened. He could have died or he's treating his cancer somewhere else. Why didn't he come back? So that part of big data just basically says we have all this information. We're going to create queries and we're going to understand this information to see if it will impact our business outcomes. The same thing with Internet of Things. It's very simple. When we talk about IoT, here's what we're saying. Can a device of some sort track and bring back data that will help us better understand our environment, our business, our ecosystem, and help us make adjustments in terms of business outcomes? One example I have from some work I did at Microsoft was getting truck drivers to have a device on their truck so you can just track them. The supervisor can track them on his phone. Okay, why did Mr. B stop on Third Mainland Bridge and sat on Third Mainland Bridge for 3 hours when he should have been crossing the bridge and making a delivery? Is his car broken down? Or, hey, one of your tires, based on the device that's implanted in your tire, one of your tires is about to burst because it's been overused, or there's less air in that tire, and that information just feeds back to me. And as the maintenance supervisor, I can look at that data real time and say, okay, we got to take that car off the road. We got to get a tire fixed, or we got to change the oil, or we got to change some part within the. So basically, that's what IoT simply does. It just goes in, uses the device, gathers information that's relevant to the customer, and that customer uses that information to benefit the business and create desired business outcomes.
Thank you so much. That was clear. So I want to show us some. I want to show us some. Should I say slides now? That I got that I pulled from World Economic Forum, and I want us to just based on our own experience now give us your take on it. So right now I have on screen a World Economic Forum infographics that shows the time that it takes to actually learn different type of skills. And then it says that within 1 to 2 months, you can learn copywriting, you can learn sales, customer service, what we tag as business support skills. But between 2 to 3 months, you can learn product development, data and AI skills. And then it will take up to 4 to 5 years, that's 4 to 5 months rather, to learn cloud computing or engineering programming skills. And then one more data from the World Economic Forum, and then I'll ask the question directly. There is this data, this infographic also out by World Economic Forum, is saying that by 2025, new jobs will emerge and will begin to displace old jobs. And on top of the list is data analysts and scientists, seconded by AI, machine learning specialists, big data specialists, digital marketing and strategy specialists, process automation specialists, business development professionals, I4, and I'm very proud to see it here. I'm happy to see here rather. Uh, yes, digital transformation specialist, information security specialist, very critical, software and application developers, and then Internet of Things specialists. So the floor to Mr. Ifine. Please, what is your take on these two data? Give us a even a Nigerian perspective. Are these things true? Do you see it happening?
Okay, thank you, Damilola. Let me go down the grassroots, like you said. Okay, let me now use my example. Maybe someone might say I'm already in the IT space. I have real-time information. I have will I say, a student or a mentee. Now, this guy just graduated from secondary school, okay, before the coronavirus. When I mean secondary school is like your high school, okay? He was barely 18 years old when he graduated. And we organized a program in our place they call VGIP. VGIP is our version of Virtual Graduate Internship Program. Actually, this was birthed as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. And we're seeing how can these youths gain employment? How can they be employed? How can we maximize the effect of the coronavirus? And we did that. And this boy was with me. He goes about, follows me under my tutelage, and I told him to enroll for the program. And whilst he did that, the program lasted for about 2 months. After that program, this boy got a placement for internship, and he did 3 months in. He did 4 months internship. Now he got admission. But the good part of it is that this boy has already marked a career path for himself. He doesn't need to do anything again. He's just going to school. To me, is for formality's sake. But as far as the job market is concerned, he's already employed. That is one. Two, I have somebody close to me that traveled, and she went for a master's, and she did accounting from her first degree to her master's, and she went for a course out there. And she came in contact with this particular DevOps, and she came and she got into DevOps. This is somebody that was not into IT from the beginning, and she got into DevOps. As I'm speaking to you now, she is a DevOps engineer. She's a certified AWS solution architect. She is certified in AWS, and she's working with that currently now. Now, what am I trying to say is that, yes, you're looking at the timeline. I'm an instructor by training, by profession. That's what I do. I understand how it works. So when you look at the fact that the information that you pulled out is quite true, when you spend 4 months to 5 months, you'll get a grasp of where you are studying. But the most important thing there is that you need to work with that. You need to deploy that. And that is where I see Innkeeper coming in, whereby after the training they get you a placement. The truth is this: whatever thing you learn in the university, forget about it. When you come to the real job market, is application. So you learn on the job. And by the training Innkeeper is given, by the time you go through that, you have a placement, which of course they are going to do for you. The time you get a placement, I assure you that that career path that you are looking at, you're going to get there. Now, looking at this other one that you placed about the job landscape, that is true. Very, very true. 10 years ago, 10 years ago, I'm very sure that some people there, their parents were like, I want you to be a lawyer. I want you to go and study. They were professional courses that people were going for. But today, in the in the world of today,
I think we lost him briefly.
I think we lost him.
Yes, he'll come back. But I don't know if you can take it up from where you stopped. Talking about the job landscape, also from a
it was just
world
in the
and global
other.
perspective.
I think he's back.
He's not back yet. Still
Okay.
freezing. So from a global perspective, is this data what it solved?
Yes, it is. Learning is doing. Let me start there. Right. So living in the United States, people come from all over the world, and particularly when people come from this part of the hemisphere in Africa, and they come and they say, "Hey, we're looking for employment." I think one of the things that I always tell them is, "Hey, if you're interested in technology, um, understanding this new cloud environment, I typically will tell them 3 to 6 months, just because I've seen people get certifications in that range. So some people are just maniacs when it comes to studying and taking the practice test. They take the first test and they come back to me and they say, "What else do you need me to do?" And they do it very quickly, right? And there's always employment opportunities for that, whether it's internships, whether it's DevOps work, whether it's contract work. I almost honestly think that there's more technology work than there are qualified people. So there's plenty of space, right? And then you can take it in so many different ways. So we have a pharmacist who just took her AWS, and she doesn't want to stop being a pharmacist, but she wants to do some things on the side, right? So she wants to work with hospitals and help them understand analyzing their data in the pharmacy world. So she does it. Then we have a chef of 20 years who just got 2 certifications and now
Wow.
works at IBM. So it's one of those things where learning is doing, but I like the fact that you can be pretty good in 6 months. And the fact that the materials to do such thing is everywhere. Now, I always recommend incubation periods. So I always recommend to people to say, yeah, you can go watch the YouTube video, or you can self-study. But being in an incubatory period or cocoon with a group of experts and specialists, and having them coach you and mentor you and walk you through different real life scenarios is very critical, because we've seen people take the test, understand how to pass the test, but then struggle when it comes to real life application of what they've learned.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love what you said about, first and foremost, we learn by doing. And so regardless of how quick you are to do self-paced study, it's always very important to have that mentorship touch on your learning journey. I also like the fact, and which confirms a number of conversations that we have been in the past couple of days with some corporates and some startups, to say that there are jobs, there are vacant roles that have not been filled simply because tech talents are not available. I am careful saying this online, because I know this is going online and it's still going to be available even after today. But there is one of the multi-cloud sellers that I had a conversation with, and they hinted that one of the reasons why they are not in Lagos yet is because a particular set of talent, they are very, very, very heavy and strong in Egypt, but they're not in Lagos, they're not in Nigeria yet. They said, oh, it's because we don't have this, we do not see this volume and size of talent in this category yet available. So I think that summarizes the fact that we can all agree that there is availability of of job opportunities. It's just that most people and the qualification that most young people have are completely different from what the world of work requires. So someone out there who is listening in, and I must not miss this. I must reiterate this because what you said is critical. That regardless of the vertical that you are in, it's interesting that you can, come into this space, learn. You can either pull out and then come into the core technology space, or even remain within your vertical, take contract work in the tech space, or still within your space, find application for technology within your vertical, regardless of where you are. You're an accountant, you're a lawyer, you're educationist, you're banker, regardless of what vertical that you have, you've grown in, you can always take technology and then find, even in oil and gas, because I also have some conversation with people in oil and gas who are
Absolutely.
playing around data analytics, and how they're collecting data. A number of oil companies are also international oil companies and national oil companies, and even service providers, local service providers, and now on cloud, which is very interesting. So how does a young person, for instance, I know you've answered the question, if I just want us to reiterate it. How does a young person take advantage of um, this whole opportunity that is opening up in the tech space? I'm interested. I want to learn this stuff, but everything looks like anytime they say programming, what's programming? You've been talking clouds. What's all this stuff? It's a whole headache. Where do I start from? How do I start? Let me allow Paul give you first look at it, and then I'll allow if I close this question up.
And I'm sure there are several different ways to do this, but what I'll tell you how people have come to me. So people have come to me on LinkedIn and just said, "Hey, I love your profile. How'd you get started?" Right? And then we get people all the time. Microsoft offers classes for free. I share that information across the globe with people who are interested in technology. And then we've had people who just simply will reach out to our organizations, whether it's IBM or my time at VMware, my time at Microsoft, just simply say, "Hey, do you have anything out there?" And that information comes from the group that gets it. They reach out to us, and then we reach out to those people. Then we have all these societal social media groups. They are literally everywhere. So I live in Dallas, Texas, and there are AWS people there are Azure people, there are Oracle people. They meet maybe once a week or once a month, have lunch, talk about the business. They get new members. They talk about how to incorporate those members and train and teach those members. Um, so really, I really think that it really starts with the individual at the end of the day. I think there are resources out there. I just think that, you want something really bad, you go out. We find a way as human beings to get the things that we want.
Sure.
Um, and I know that a lot of times when people reach out to me, immediately I'm like, "Hey, okay, start here. Here's this resource, Azure 900. You can study for it in a week. You can pass it in a week, or you know, link up with this person. He just took this test. Here's some dumps to actually have you review, or here's this organization in this part of the world, and this is what they're doing." So basically, it's kind of a network of networks, and then your own personal drive and research to say, "Okay, I'm just gonna Google and see what happens with of X amount of information in my area, in my locale, and see what comes up." And then I can expand across the globe. The world is very small right now,
Of
and
course.
so somebody could be somewhere across continents and reach out to you on LinkedIn, and then there's a link 5 seconds later saying, "Oh, Microsoft's got classes once or twice a week for free. All you gotta do is here's a registration link, register, hop on live chat, and let them teach you what you need to know." Or there's this organization and they're teaching people how to code for free. Or we've got this organization that's teaching engineers. Or there's this university that's teaching XYZ classes for free. So there's a number of different avenues. It always just starts at the core. It starts with the person. Because I know that every day I get LinkedIn requests of people just out of the blue that just ask for resources and ask how I got started, or they say, what does a multi-cloud technical seller mean? Help me understand that. And I tell them, hey, it simply means one thing. We at IBM don't care what cloud you use, right? We've got the technical resources um, to provide you insight into your environment and to help you with anything you need, whether it's implementation, whether it's deployment, whether it's even an upgrade or a patch. And that's what I do. I understand multiple clouds and I help customers from any direction that they come, and we accommodate that. But for the most part, that's really how I think the world is so small now, and there's information everywhere that I think that the individual has a drive and a desire, and they start reaching out and pulling levers. And then it's easier. I'm just a big fan of having a mentor somewhere that kind of has been there, done that, and can guide you through. And don't be afraid to just ask. I've reached out to people and just said, hey, this is my background, this is my resume, this is what I'm doing right now. Would you consider taking me on as a mentor? Some people say, no, I'm too busy, I don't have time. Some people say, I don't have time, but here's another guy that can help you. Or some people say, absolutely, I can help you. So it just really depends.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. If do you want to add to add?
Yes, I love what Paul mentioned. Okay, very, very is absolutely true. Let the audience know about this. We were in the information age about 2010 thereabout. That one was the information age. But the truth is that we've moved from information to collaboration. That's the truth. The age of the industry 4.0 is beyond information. Like he said, you can access information everywhere. There's YouTube, there's everywhere you can get information. But the real work comes from doing and also getting the right person to guide you. You need a mentor. That fact can never be disputed. If you want to go far in this business, in this space, you need a mentor. Somebody who has been there, who has seen it, who will take you by the hand and shorten the learning curve for you. Absolutely true. So somebody who is trying to come into the space, what do you need? First of all, you need to make up your mind that I want to do this. That starts from you. It starts from you as an individual. What do you want? Now, when you resolve that in your heart, reach out to somebody who has been in that space and let that person guide you. Now, in Lagos, we have something we call the meetup. We have meetups. Meetups are actually forum where people come together and they discuss like-minded things. You have them everywhere, and they're all over Lagos. They're all over, not beyond Lagos. So you can have information. You can access anybody. Like Mr. Paul said, you can access him on LinkedIn. Okay? Innkeeper is there doing their thing there. We're here doing our own at United Cisco. So what do you need? Get the right information, go get the mentorship, and plunge into it. The space is so wide. And I love what you mentioned, Damilola. The space is wide, and there are no talents there. It's a fact. The space is wide open. So you can come and cut your share in there. But remember, for you to cut your share in there, you must put in the work. You must put in the grind. You must put in the grind. Okay, so do the work. Get somebody to lead you. I believe that is what Innkeeper is here for. They are leading you by the hand and showing you the roads, teaching you by the ropes. And by the time you follow that, you see that the learning curve will be shortened for you. And voila, you are there. There's nothing so special about that. The whole cloud buzz, the cloud thing. When I got into it, I was like, that's what I've been doing back then when I did my Cisco, my CCNA, when we're doing on-prem servers. It's the same thing. Just go in there, just configure, and they are just user-friendly. Everything is highlighted. They just click on it and go. There's no magic to it. We talk about programming back then. Python has already broken down some things. Now we have another group of Python called Scratch, which is user-friendly. It's a program which is Python-based, but it uses blocks. And that is what we deploy in our secondary schools. We are present in all the federal government colleges in Nigeria, the Navy schools, we're in the command schools, and we're doing that. It will amaze you to know that somebody as little as JSS1 knows how to use a Python programming language. And by the time you are leaving SS3, you have 5 certifications as a secondary school student. that is the opportunity of what we are doing in our own space. So it's so wide. So get yourself there, get the mentor, and go in there. Put in the time. You must put in the time. That's what I have to say.
All right. So we're coming to. Uh,
I don't come to you guys because I'm smarter than anyone. I come to you guys because I've probably made every mistake in this business you can think of. And there's a wisdom that comes sometimes from our mistakes as well.
beautiful. Beautiful. So just two more questions, and then we'll call it a wrap. Except another question quickly comes in. So someone here from Adebanjo Adeniji is asking that as a newbie, where does IoT and big data intercept? Which do you suggest I take on as it fits into what I'm interested in? So I think he's asking that, okay, so when he's looking at courses around IoT and big data, how does it intercept and where should he start from? I think the floor is open. Anyone?
Let me. That's a preference thing, but I'll say this. Um, from the big data perspective, for me, in a lot of the work that I do, like I said, IBM doesn't really care. So a lot of the work I do with big data and analytics and things of that nature are Microsoft custom. Mostly it's in Azure, right? We've got a pretty good, robust machine learning tool at IBM called Watson, if you've heard of that.
Yeah, IBM
We've got
Watson.
Watson Healthcare, and then we've got Watson, the smart Watson itself. But for me, I this is going to sound really, really, really archaic, but I was telling my customers, you need to start from the data center, right? So your SQL Server environment, understand what databases are, understand what data's in there. If you want to do something in the cloud, understand how you want to move that data, right? So there are so many different technologies that we see. We saw Hadoop was such a great technology for a while, and I think it's outdated now. It's just my opinion. But then understanding like what a data warehouse is, what a data lake is, data bricks, and understanding how those things fit into providing the actual data that you need for the analytics, right? So the analytics cannot take place without the data. Understanding how you want to move the different pieces of the data is really critical. By the time you get to IoT, for me, I almost feel like you've already understood that, okay, I want this device to do XYZ. Even if you don't understand it, you already have data sets and data pools that you want to extract information from. And now you're looking for what methodology, whether it's putting a device in the soil to tell you what soil temperatures look like, or the quality of water 200 feet below, or as we talked about oil and gas, deep sea exploration and things like that. We did some work at Microsoft with Boeing, and they've done some stuff on predictive maintenance analysis, which means before a part goes bad, you can know 6 months beforehand or 3 months beforehand and make sure that people are safe and parts are replaced. And that sometimes helps save lives, save money, and save time, right? In terms of labor costs. So it really is a preference here. But my customers come to me with these great big dreams and ideas and don't even really understand how they want to extract the data that they want to use. And so I have to back them up to say, yeah, all this sounds great, but what's the foundation of what we're trying to do here to actually get the information that we need to analyze?
Beautiful. If you want to have a jab at
Yes,
it?
yes. Let me come from the point of an instructor looking at Adeneji, and that is why when you have mentees, you look at them, you look at what they've done before, and you look at where are they really aspiring to be at. And with all this information, you're able to put things together to know and guide them on the path of where to follow at the end of the day. So for me, You want to enter into a field of IoT, big data with the intercept. The convergent point is about data. That is where everything converges. Okay, so big data solves it all. Data comes in, the velocity, the quality, the variety, they are all filtered. In the process of the filtering, there are so many levels where you can fit into. Under data science, data analytics, there's machine learning, artificial intelligence. All of them are a branch of where they flow together. Okay, IoT stands alone on its own, also feeding from the data you've already refined or you've mined. So for somebody coming in into this two space, I will look at him and look at, okay, where can you start the foundational basis of data itself? Then you can now filter and know where you can find yourself. The interesting thing about the IT space right now is that you can be doing a little thing in the niche, and that is it. That's it for you. The big data we're talking about is so wide. It's just became big data, but inside of it is really
It's
loaded.
it's actually big. The big data is big.
So you can find yourself somewhere in the midst of it and just pick up something and you're doing. You could be mining data. You could be into AI. You could be into data science, into data analytics, into as little as that can be, and you were set for life. I mean, you just blow, you just go. So that's how the IT space in AI, IoT on its own also stands at the top of it. Is the data that you collected that you can now use with sensors and other things that can be able that be able to communicate with themselves. So for me, I look at the student, I look at what are your passion and some of the things that you love doing, and based on these
Mm.
things, I make recommendations.
All right. So if I before you go, so what are your toughest challenges that you have faced getting into technology? And with the benefit of hindsight, if you look at your 18-year-old and your 16-year-old self, what will you advise? I think want to take that as your final words.
Okay, I told you that I'm from a medical background, medical animal background. So I remember the first time I had a system back then in school. I wasn't a computer science student, and the whole of that school, I mean, even some of the computer science students had no computers, but I had a computer, and I kept spoiling the computer, inviting someone to fix it for me, and that was how it went on and on and on. But I found myself suddenly did a program, A plus program, software and hardware engineering, and I entered into it. But the struggle has been in finding somebody who could lead me actually. Yes, and I will say that to every young person there. And I'll borrow the words Paul said, you need a mentor. You need a mentor. So some of the struggles I've had was somebody guiding me on the path I would have gone. Yeah, I'm really grateful to where I am right now. I made my mistakes and I stood up, I went ahead, you know. Why? Because back then technology wasn't as far as this. You know, we're still struggling on where to find ourselves and fit in. But the issue I had struggled with was finding someone who I could model after. If I'd had that, I mean, but thank God for where I am. So to that 18-year-old, 15-year-old aspiring to come into tech, look up to someone. What is that person doing? And come on, model yourself after that person. I'm telling you, the learning curve will be shortened for you.
All
I think
right.
that's that.
Beautiful. If I and Paul, from you, your final words. What would you call your toughest challenge thus far? And with the benefit of hindsight, if you had an opportunity to advise a 16-year-old Paul, 18-year-old Paul, 20-year-old, 25-year-old Paul, what would you say to him?
Well, when I started in this business, the biggest thing for us here in America as black men is just diversity, right? So being able to get into different positions and environments based on merit and have your color of your skin not even be considered, right? And we started seeing black men in positions of leadership like myself recently. But when I started, that was not the case at all. Um, Regardless of what you did, you could count on your fingers how many um, black men that you saw um, in America in these environments, and it was always very few. And you'd be very surprised when you saw them. You'd be like, "Oh, wow!" I didn't realize that person was black, was a person of color. So that was what would I tell myself? Um, at 18 and 16, I would say use your color to stand out, right? Because when I came to this business, when you walk into a room and you're the only person of color, I could have taken advantage of that much better than I did at the time. At the time, it was a concern, it was intimidation, it was worry, it was worried about saying the right thing, the wrong thing. Now I know that, hey, I stand out. I walk in, I stand out, and I leverage that. I use that to build relationships. I use that to share my experiences. I use that to expose myself to others and the work that I've done. So now it's a tool. We still have a long way to go in America when it comes to diversity, but it's no longer, for me, it's always now it's a tool to figure out how to assimilate into that environment. When I was younger, I was like, oh crap, here we go again. I'm the only black man in this, and that attitude has changed. And I think that if I had done things a little bit sooner, been a little bit more creative sooner, who knows? Who knows? What the future holds at that point.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. That was inspiring. And I'm going to adapt what you've said to fit into a particular use case here, especially here in Lagos, Nigeria. Um, I like the fact that you're unique and this diversity issue. It's something that is actually you can convert it to something of strength. Uh, likewise manner, I want to encourage every female gender person that is listening or not to this call and to this webinar, and say, hey, it may look like the numbers of females are not so much, of which it will interest you that we have a good number of female technology ethicists, especially in recent times. So if you are on this, listening to this, I'm encouraging you, especially ladies. Ladies in technology are always coveted. They are always gold. They're always first choice. So if you're a lady and you're interested in every of the things that we've talked about, um, please ensure that you jump on this train without hesitation. If I is offline, if he comes back, I'll say goodbye to him and thank you. I must say a very big thank you to you, Paul. Um,
Thank
Guys,
you.
I'm going to let a little cat out of the bag without your permission. Um, Paul is visiting Nigeria briefly, so he's just in Nigeria for a short while. And then we
Yeah.
caught up with him, and then we said, hey, we need to do this. So I don't think it's up to 24 hours that you're in Nigeria, right?
No, it's not. It's
Yeah,
not
it's
24
not the
hours yet.
24 hours. Thank you. Despite jet lag and everything, we're able to drag you and get you on this. Thank you for making it happen. We sincerely
Absolutely.
appreciate it. And we look forward to
Anytime.
engaging you.
And share my information so people can reach out to me on LinkedIn for
No
anything that
trouble.
they may need. And if there's a resource that I don't have, I'd be happy to look for it and share it with people
Sure.
who are like-minded.
Sure. All right. Thank you so much. So, in rounding up, I'm just going to tell everyone about what Innkeeper does. Very, very quickly, just let you know one of the programs that we are setting up that is happening in September. Just on my screen right now is a flyer. It's going to get online as well, so that you can have access to it to see it, and then you can call. The Innkeeper line at any point in time for support, for information, for inquiries. All right. So please ensure that once you get this information, you look at it. If you have any questions, do let us know. But it's just interesting to let you know that we have a model that you can take advantage of. We have industry active facilitators, just we've explained, that allows for the mentorship that we talked about. Innkeeper is actually affiliated with Cisco Networking Academy and with VMware IT Academy, and we issue out certifications that are recognized in industry. Of course, most of our courses are instructor led. However, there's the self-paced component that allows it to scale. So it's both online. The instructor-led component is both online and offline and on-site. We have a center in Magodo, Lagos, if you want to come and visit. Of course, the instructor-led component can also be taken virtually. And then, interestingly, we have flexible payment options and then what we call the deferred payment option should you be interested. However, terms and conditions applies. So generally, it's important that I just let us know on this note that we're open to inquiries. We're open to talking about the options. We're open to guiding you. So if you give us a call, we can guide you. You can sign up learn.info.org is the code out. It's going to be in the chat room once this call ends with Mr. Paul's LinkedIn profile and with some of the stuff that I shared as requested. It's going to be online once this broadcast ends. I'm going to share it as a comment. All right, so you can take advantage of it. You can give us a call. We can link you to Mr. Paul, Mr. Ifeanyi. We can have conversations and guide you as to where to start. And then we're making things easy because we know that the demand is out there. Something about deferred tuition option is you come in, you pay an acceptance fee, which is not anything compared to the actual fee. However, once you're committed and we're sure that you're serious and you're committed, we'll invest, we'll take a chance on you and invest in training you. And then once you get the training and you're good to go, we will match you to jobs. And when you do get that jobs, and then we can reinvest in others. We believe it's a fantastic model. And of course, if you do have your fees, please just come in and take, and then support what we pay, and then let's take it through this journey. Let's take it certificate path, what you want. Let's connect you to corporates, to startups that are actually looking after you and make this happen. Someone is asking quickly, are there groups on social media? Yes, a couple of them, some on WhatsApp, there are a couple of groups, and then some will be shared with you. Put it in the comments, WhatsApp group, and then some Telegram groups. Some of them are pro startups, some of them are core technical learning groups that you can be a part of to get information on what is going on around you. I remember what Ifeanyi said, we are not the information age, we are in the collaboration. So it's what you do with information today. It's what you do with the information you access. If you're listening to us even after today, you're still listening to this stream. It's the information that we put out here that actually matters. We've done 11 minutes above and it's been insightful. I could go on. I'm sure we'll still have this conversation, Mr. Paul, after today. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. And Mr. Ifeanyi, if you're listening, thank you so much. And guys, have a wonderful day. Please check the comments for the phone numbers, the sign up links, Paul's LinkedIn handle, and every other detail in the comments. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you so much.
It's been a big pleasure. Thank you.